You've been tricked. You are not just a physical being experiencing a physical life. You are actually so much more than that. In fact, it would be more accurate to say that you are a light being that projects out this narrow bandwidth known as the physical that you also show up on. But you are not physical at your core. And when we understand that the main part of ourselves is actually non-physical, it not only allows us to feel better, be more aligned, and so on, but it also allows us to control our physical lives with much more precision. When we start connecting to the light part of ourselves and actually start to vibrate out more light intentionally, all that you wish to truly create deep down starts finding its way into your life. So in this video, we'll cover not only how to connect to this non-physical aspect of yourself that allows you to create reality, but how to vibrate out such a powerful and intense light that your dreams, goals, and so on start flying in. So Manly P. Hall, who is famous for being someone who intentionally wanted to become a 33rd degree Mason, Freemason, so that he may divulge the secrets and information to the masses, said in his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, "Light is the first of the emanations, and from light all things proceed. Light is the life of the universe and the consciousness of all creatures." He also states in his book, Lectures on Ancient Philosophy, light is not merely physical luminosity. It is the radiant substance of mind itself, the invisible fire that gives being to worlds and creatures. Now, if we look at Hermetic wisdom, for example, light is seen as pure consciousness, intelligence, or spirit. So there's much more to it than we've been led to believe. So you can think of light as pure consciousness, and as the father of quantum mechanics said, who is Max Planck, by the way, I regard consciousness as fundamental and matter as derivative from consciousness. And again, you can think of that as light is consciousness, and that matter, physical matter, is derivative from light. So the outer world of form, that narrow bandwidth of physical matter reality, follows the inner world of light or consciousness. That which you give more light to in your life, more attention to in your life, expands in your life. I want to give you another quote from a great book that's going to expand on this. This comes from a book known as The Awesome Science of Luck by Peter Ragnar. Phenomenal book where he kind of talks more, again, of the science of it. And there's an amazing quote that goes like this from the book. "Numerous studies of very sensitive individuals have revealed that their bodies emit high levels of electromagnetic energy and infrared emissions. Dr. William Tiller of Stanford University states, the human body is not just a chemical and electrical machine. The human body is a light machine." So, what is it that excites an atom? It is an emitted photon. If we are light machines, as Dr. Tiller suggests, then we possess the ability to alter matter and circumstance. Therefore, the more light you can emit, the more successful you will become. The smallest measurement of the energy contained in ultraviolet light is 1 electron volt. These are described as joules. Humans put out around 10 joules per second. As you and I increase the power of our intention and consciousness, we build a lens through which we can focus and concentrate our photons of ultraviolet light upon objects and events and influence their outcome. So the more light we send out and emit, the more successful we become, the more creative power we then have at our fingertips. Like I mentioned earlier, it's good to keep in mind that the physical follows the non-physical, meaning our ability to create is mainly down to what we do with the non-physical aspect of ourselves. What we give more light to, more attention to in those non-physical parts of ourselves determines what will then be produced in our physical world. Like mentioned, we give light to things mainly through our focus and attention. And there are ways to intentionally amplify that attention to produce more energy or light. And science has actually known about this for a while through what's known as the observer effect and through an experiment known as the double slit experiment. So I'm going to play you a clip right now where they go over this experiment a little bit more from a documentary known as the simulation hypothesis, and then I'll meet you back here after.
Prior to observation, matter does not seem to exist. Matter seems to be the result of an interaction between consciousness and waves of potential. This has been demonstrated repeatedly in ever more precise versions of the double slit experiment, from the 1920s right up through the present. To understand the double-slit experiment, we first need to know how particles behave. If we shoot small objects at a detector, we will see a clump pattern form where they went through the slit and impacted. If we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second clumping duplicated to the right. Now let's look at waves. The waves go through the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the clump pattern. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. When the top of one wave meets the bottom of another, they interfere and cancel each other out. This results in an interference pattern on the back wall. Where the waves reinforce each other, they are at the highest intensity, the bright lines. And where they cancel each other out, there is nothing. So, when we fire objects through two slits, we get two clump patterns, but with waves, we get an interference pattern. An electron can be seen as a very small bit of matter. And when a stream of electrons is fired through one slit, they behave like small objects, forming a single clump pattern. So if we fire these bits of matter through two slits, we should get two clump patterns. But we don't. We get an interference pattern. We fired particles through, but we get a pattern like they're waves, not like little objects. How can pieces of matter create an interference pattern like waves? It doesn't make sense. At first, physicists thought that the electrons were bouncing off each other to create this interference pattern. So, in 1961, Klaus Johnson at the University of Tübingen in Germany modified the experiment to fire the electrons through one at a time. This way, there is no possibility of them bumping into and interfering with each other. But again, the interference pattern was seen. Physicists were perplexed by this.
It somehow seems to have been aware of there being two slits, not one, because it's given rise to this interference pattern. How does one atom do that? Does it split in half? Does it become like a cloud that goes through both?
The path taken by the photon is not an element of reality. We are not allowed to talk about the photon passing through this or this slit. Neither are we allowed to say that the photons pass through both slits. All this kind of language is not applicable.
So they further modified the experiment to get to the bottom of the mystery. They put a measuring device at one slit to see which one the particle actually went through. But when the electrons were being this closely observed, they went back to behaving like little objects and produced a clump pattern, not an interference pattern. Somehow, the act of observation meant that they only went through one slit, not both. The electrons seemed to decide how to behave as if they were aware of being watched. How could this possibly be the case? Could the presence of a conscious observer be influencing the experiment?
Consciousness is information. It's an information field. Okay? It's data.
In 1978, physicist John Wheeler proposed a new way of doing the double-slit experiment that might finally reveal what's really happening. He proposed what is called the delayed choice experiment, in which the decision of whether or not to observe the particles isn't made until after they've gone through the slits, but before they've impacted the detector. This animation is highly simplified, but you get the idea. Here comes the light. It travels through the double-slit barrier as waves. The waves are past the slits but haven't yet hit the detector. And here comes the scientist. His eyes are closed. He's delaying his choice to make this an observed experiment. And then... The results of the experiment didn't solve the mystery. Instead, it got even stranger. Because what was found was that at the moment of decision to observe, the waves became particles. And not only that, but they actually made a record of themselves as having traveled through the slits as particles. Yes, you heard me. Deciding to run the observed experiment causes the waves to become particles, and this causal force extends backwards in time.
Our choice of what experiment to do determines the prior state of the electron.
Running the experiment unobserved does not cause this effect.
The force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together.
Max Planck famously said, "There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter."
So it is through our observations, or what we decide to observe, that dictates what comes through in our physical lives. And again, most of this occurs from an inner world perspective. If you take nothing else away from this video, let it be this: the outer world follows the inner world, which means what we decide to dwell on most of the time, mentally, your thoughts, and emotionally. So let's talk about amplifying the light, so again, that you draw more success to you. Now, I'm going to offer you a free guided meditation that I've created that I give to clients actually, that's going to help you do this just so powerfully. It's only about 5 to 6 minutes, and you can put this on and go through it and just follow along throughout the day to keep amplifying your light in order to, again, shine more light and give more attention to certain things that will allow for you to manifest quicker or create reality faster and more effectively. Now, to get that, just sign up for my email newsletter down below called Illuminate, and I will send you that free meditation that you can start using right away. Again, this is incredibly powerful. It is going to activate the light within you and help it emanate out so that it draws back. It is the second link in the description down below if you would like to get that. So again, with all of this in mind, we want to aim to amplify the light that is in our lives and the light that we are shining or emanating out. Now, if you give your attention to what you don't want, to negativity, fear, and so on, you will find more of that coming in. We want to be incredibly intentional with what we are shining the light of our attention on, especially inwardly, and also with expanding our light and therefore our magnetism, or what we attract in general. As Dr. Joe Dispenza said in an interview with Gaia, you are a tunable vibration of energy. Every time you change your emotional state, you're changing your personal electromagnetic signature. You are tunable, meaning you can alter your vibrational state by what you put your focus on. So if you start intentionally changing your thoughts and emotions, you start sending out a different signal that the universe will then respond to. To drive this even more home, here's another quote from Dr. Joe, this time from his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. The quantum field responds not to what we want, it responds to who you are being. And who you are being is whatever you're focusing on in this moment. Yes, we could say what you're being is your habits and your behaviors and whatever else, but those are formed by what you have been putting your focus on consistently. The thoughts, the emotions, the actions you have taken have formed your beingness. So the universe does not respond to what you want, it responds to who you are by what you are being in the moment and consistently over time in many moments. Now again, like I mentioned, there are two things we ultimately want to do here. First, we want to shine the light of our attention on the things we want to create in our life. For example, we want to focus more on what we do want versus what we don't want. And then in general, we want to just amplify the light we are sending out and we are in, raising our consciousness, we could also say, raising our light in general, so that we are attracting in more often. Now, when it comes to the first part on what you should be focusing on, I recommend you create what's called a singular or definite chief aim. The reason we want to make this singular is it allows you to throw light and project light and amplify light on a singular thing, which allows for it to grow fast. The person who popularized this idea, Napoleon Hill, said that when he did this, and he learned this from some of the most successful people of his time, he was so amazed with how quick it worked that it frightened him. But we now know this is because if you direct your focus in a singular direction, it builds energy very quickly. If you shine light in that singular direction, it builds results very quickly and becomes more magnetic as this light grows bigger and bigger. And to amplify your energy in general, again, I have given you a meditation you can receive through the second link that is going to help you do this. And all you really need to do is do this a couple times throughout the day. Do it more if you want, but at least use it once a day to amplify your light, to amplify your energy, and it's going to work incredibly well at doing this. Now, when it comes to the singular chief aim and also amplifying your energy, I show clients how to do this powerfully in my membership group, which is linked down below in the description if you want to check it out so you can learn how to do this quickly, easily, and with guidance. You can take a look at that. But I also recommend this next video to help you get started, where I show you how to create that focus very, very powerfully. Again, I'm going to walk you through so much of it there, creating that singular chief aim and so much more. So if you want to really get focused in on the thing you need to shine light at to make changes in your life, I would go check this out next.